Well, guys, I'm finally back for the Christmas season, and as a special treat from me to you guys, here's another double review to make up for lost time. So, let's get this started.
I see it, and now it's all within my reach. I see it now. It's always been inside of me. And now I feel so free. And there's possibility. And there's possibility.
Hello, everyone, and I would just like to say I am very sorry for the lack of uploads for the past 2 months, and mostly you've just been seeing are just like meme videos I've been posting. It's that I've been very busy with school, and that's taken up a lot of my time, so I haven't had that much time to record stuff on this channel, so I do apologize, but I will make it up to you guys with some more reviews I have planned throughout this month and next month or something like that. But yeah, and also because of the fact that there hasn't been that much stuff for me to review as of late until now, where I finally got the chance to watch both Sponge on the Run and Mulan 2020, because there was no way in heck I was going to waste $30 on a stupid live-action Disney remake. Seriously, Disney, what's up with that? $30? That's a bit much if you ask me. But anyway, we're going to start off with Sponge on the Run. Now, before I talk about this movie, I do want to talk about the previous SpongeBob movies real quick, so let's just talk about them and how I feel about them, because I actually rewatched them before watching Sponge on the Run. So, with the first SpongeBob movie, it's a classic, one of my favorite movies of all time, and it's a movie I can watch any day of the week. I would give it a strong 9 out of 10. It's a really solid flick, and it was originally going to be the end of SpongeBob, but Nickelodeon wanted to milk this series for all it's worth, so yeah. And then in 2015, we got Sponge Out of Water, which, while it was pretty good, I would give it an 8 out of 10 to it. But the big problem was that, you see, when it came to marketing the movie, they pretty much gave away the entire third act in every trailer ever. Even mini trailers, like, advertisements for the movie, they would show off every joke, and because of that, even when I saw it in theaters, the jokes in the last act weren't that funny because it was all shown off. But, yeah. Well, now it's time to talk about Sponge on the Run, finally.
Okay.
And what are my thoughts on it? Well, let's first start with the plot. Well, as many people point out, it's basically Have You Seen This Snail, except given an hour and a half runtime to it, where basically SpongeBob has to find Gary. Well, SpongeBob and Patrick had to find Gary, as Gary was stolen by Plankton to King Poseidon, and they had to get Gary back. And we also have a sort of a commercial for Camp Coral. Yeah, this movie is also an hour and a half long commercial for Camp Coral spin-off. Don't worry, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, what are my thoughts on this film? Well, to start off with the good stuff, I would say that the animation is really good, because in Sponge Out of Water, they had the characters, be 3D and live action stuff for the last act, and it looked really good there. So having an entire movie where it's all in this art style is really good. The characters pop up really well, and they do look nice, and they still look the same, except just given a different model. I do prefer the 2D designs more, but that's just my opinion. More than that, the animation is gorgeous all around. It's a 10 out of 10 in terms of animation. And I will say that the voice actors still do a pretty good job, even to this day. Sorry about that. I haven't watched some of the newer seasons, but I am impressed that these actors are still able to do these voices and still do them so well. And they even got a couple laughs out of me, like with Mr. Krabs. I thought he was pretty funny. And I also thought Keanu Reeves was pretty funny, as always. It felt so epic seeing Keanu Reeves talk with SpongeBob and Patrick. Like, that's a dream come true. And it's just so much, and it's just really fun to watch. And you can tell Keanu was having a good time, as always. And I'll admit, there are some jokes I liked, and I liked some of the Easter eggs that were in this movie, like how they brought back the paddy wagon from the first movie. And if you look closely during the whole montage scene, where they play that song from the end of Shrek 2, You can see that guy from the Salty Splatoon, which I thought was a nice Easter egg. I thought it was really nice. And yeah, those are my positives of the movie. I thought overall it's eh. But let's talk about my issues. Number one, again, the plot. Yeah, this movie didn't need to be a movie at all. It should have been like a special on TV or something like that. Because the main problem is that when they go on the road trip, they have this pointless scene where they go to a bar with these ghosts or something like that. And while there is a funny moment where they're all like, "Hey, I told you guys no dancing in this saloon," and one of them said, "But it's breakdown on Friday, sir." Oh, okay, then go ahead. That was funny, but why was Snoop Dogg in this scene? Like, seriously, where was Snoop Dogg? Why was Snoop Dogg in this movie? Oh, and I know this seems out of nowhere, but there were two other positives I forgot to mention. I do like how during the credits they played a remix of Gary Come Home, and they even gave a thank you letter to Steven Hillenburg, which was nice, seeing how the man passed away, so may he rest in peace. I am very sorry this comes off as awkward. I just came back into my head. I'm very sorry, guys. I did not mean to sound disrespectful at all. May he rest in peace for his hard work. But, yeah. Now, again, talking about the saloon scene, it just feels fillerish, because other than Keanu, who is just called Sage, there is no point to this scene at all, and it just feels like filler since it's never brought up again outside of Keanu showing up during the climax. That's about it. And also, this movie, when they get to the city of Atlantis or something like that, there's still 50 minutes left of the film, and they have this stupid scene where SpongeBob and Patrick break up because they got drunk again. You know, what is up with SpongeBob movies and SpongeBob and Patrick getting drunk? Like, in the first movie, they got drunk off of ice cream, and now they get drunk again. But why didn't the second movie have them getting drunk? The world may never know. But still. And then they're like, "Well, I don't trust you, SpongeBob, and I don't trust you, Patrick." Because earlier in the movie, they were making fun of road trip films, and SpongeBob said, "Well, you know what, there's gonna be a scene where we break up." And I'm like, gee, I wonder if that's gonna happen in the movie. And it did. And it was resolved so easily that it made it feel pointless. And another thing I did not like about this movie is, again, the pacing. It just feels so off and just not good at all. But I will say, it was nice that we got to have Mr. Krabs, Sandy, and Squidward contribute more, since I liked how they actually went out to help SpongeBob and Patrick in the journey, well, towards the end, which I thought was nice. But now let's talk about the big one, Camp Coral. Okay, I get that you want to market your spin-off, and I think this spin-off is stupid, because Steven Hillenburg said there should be no spin-offs for SpongeBob whatsoever. But here's the thing. When you're going to have a spin-off be in something that's supposed to be canon to SpongeBob, don't break the canon of SpongeBob. I know SpongeBob is kind of something you don't look towards for canon purposes, but still. Like, for example, they bring up how SpongeBob met Sandy at Camp Coral, which makes no sense, seeing how they met while fighting the worm in the third episode of the series, and also saying that SpongeBob and Squidward are the same age since they met at the summer camp. Okay, audience, let me ask you something like this. Okay, here's a picture of Squidward. Here's a picture of SpongeBob. Tell me, do they look even remotely the same age to you guys? Do they? Okay, I can at the very least buy Patrick meeting SpongeBob at Camp Coral, because, well, they are the same age. But Sandy, Mr. Krabs, and Squidward, and also with Mr. Krabs, apparently SpongeBob gave him the idea for the Krusty Krab, even though in Friend or Foe it was stated that both Plankton and Mr. Krabs came up with the idea for the Krusty Krab. I'm just saying, writers, maybe you should watch some of the earlier episodes just to make sure you don't mess up the canon. Seriously, what is up with this? And yeah, I know most of my complaints have to do with Camp Coral, but again, this movie does feel kind of pointless in a way. You know what I mean? It just doesn't feel like it should have been made at all, and it just feels like it was made for a quick buck. Now, normally I would give movies like this a 4 out of 10, but I did have some enjoyment while watching it. And even though there are a lot of big problems with this movie, like especially Camp Coral, I can't say I hate this movie. It's the weakest of the SpongeBob movies, but I would say it's about a 6 out of 10 at most. Now let's talk about the real train wreck, Mulan.
All right, that's it. Dishonor. Dishonor on your whole family. Make a note of this. Dishonor on you. Dishonor on your cow.
Okay, now it's time to talk about Mulan 2020. Like I said before, I skipped out on paying for this movie because I'm all like, $30 just for one movie? Really, Disney? That's a bit much. If it was $10, maybe, but 30? Nah, ain't cutting it. And I'm glad I didn't waste $30 on this movie because, dear God almighty, this is probably the worst live-action remake, along with Lion King. And you know what? That's kind of funny, because if you had to ask me what my two favorite movies from the Disney Renaissance era were, I would say Lion King and Mulan, and they both got the worst treatment when it came to a live-action remake. Thanks a lot, Disney. But, yeah. Now, before I get into the story, which I just think I can just skip over because it's a remake. Because, oh yes, I will bring up some changes, but it does follow the story of the original somewhat closely, but still. Now, let me talk about some positives real quick. Number one, when I turned on the movie last week, my dog was sitting right next to me. He was sitting in my lap. He was all happy, but then when I turned on the movie, he frowned in disappointment. I wish I had that recorded so that way you all can see it, because it was truly the best thing to come out of this movie. Another thing that was actually a positive with this movie, and not talking about an experience I had while watching it, was some of the shots were nice when the movie wasn't being edited by a monkey. Okay, I think that's all the positives I can say. Okay. Oh, actually, there was one more. I do like how there was a scene where they're deciding, okay, who should keep watch over all of us while we're sleeping, and Mulan decided, I'll do it. I like that moment because, you know, it makes sense seeing how she needs to hide who she is. That's all I can say, really, in terms of positives. Now, let's talk about the problems. Now, I'm just going to say this. I'm mostly going to talk about the characters and how they messed them all up, because they decided to subtract more than add when it came to remaking Mulan. Now, look, I love Mushu, but if they wanted to tell a more serious story, that's fine. I get that. So, tell me, Disney, if you're going to remove Mushu because that would feel a little too cartoony, why do you have a sorcerer as one of the two main villains of the movie? Yeah, a sorcerer. Oh, I'm sorry, a witch. And yeah, that's the one of the big problems of the movie. The villains are boring as hell. Now, I'll say this right now, Shan Yu wasn't one of the greatest Disney villains. In fact, in terms of the Renaissance era alone, he was pretty low on the list compared to villains like Gaston, Scar, Jafar, and Frollo. But at the very least, his design was pretty intimidating, and he barely talked throughout the movie, so when he did talk, it actually made him more threatening. And he did do a lot for a villain. But here, instead of it being one villain, it's two villains. The sorcerer, no, the witch, like which I said earlier, and Shan Yu. Oh, I'm sorry, Bori Khan. Yeah, it's pretty much the exact same character, they just gave him a new name. And, yeah, these two are bland as all heck, and you wanna know what they do with the witch? Now, I know people have brought this up before, but can we talk about how stupid it is that the witch gets redemption in this movie? The first scene where she is introduced is that she murders an entire army of men with one survivor to go talk about it with the Emperor, and at the end of the movie, she redeems herself by sacrificing herself for Mulan, even though she can turn into a million bats, but decides, oh, I'm just going to turn into one eagle instead of just turning into the bats like I mentioned earlier, which is really stupid, and we're supposed to see this as a heroic sacrifice. And you'll want to know why she becomes a good person, because apparently seeing men being led into battle by a woman touches her heartstrings so much that she becomes a good guy. Wow, this is the worst redemption I have seen for a character since the Diamonds from Steven Universe. You are as bad as the Diamonds from Steven Universe redemption scenes are, Disney. Well, with this movie. And Boricon, he's just Shan Yu, except not as interesting or not as threatening. Yeah. And he goes out in the worst way possible, where Mulan kicks an arrow into his throat, and it's so freaking funny with the way it's edited. I'm sorry. But yeah. Now, I know people have ragged on this movie and talked about those points I just brought up, but still, this movie just angers me a lot more since I love the original Mulan, and there are more I had to say about this, so let's just get it over with. Number one, another thing I didn't like about this movie was how they removed a lot of the good stuff from the original. They just replaced some of it. Like with Mushu, they replaced him with a phoenix that only is there just to guide Mulan to the training grounds, which is stupid, seeing how there should be a map to the training grounds on the thing. And second off, they also replaced the soldier buddies that Mulan gets in the movie with just them, except they're boring versions of them. And Shang, oh Shang, you got replaced dirty, boy, because he got replaced because it would look offensive since a man would be in power over a woman. Even though at the end of the movie, the Emperor bows to her, which is way more respect than a captain will ever get. And yeah, and the big problem with removing Shang is that, like with the soldier buddies, one of the best things about Make a Man Out of You is that it shows us not just Mulan's growth as a character, but also the army buddies and Shang, because they're learning alongside Mulan. Because with Shang, he didn't know how to, be a leader, because he's just doing it to impress his father. And throughout the moment, he becomes better as a character, and when he sees the helmet of his dead father, he has more determination to take down Shan Yu as a way of avenging his dad. Here, they try to do that scene, except it doesn't have any impact because of, Shang being not in this movie at all, and they even find the helmet of Shang's father, but again, since Shang isn't in this movie, it has no emotional impact whatsoever. And now, let's talk about another thing they replaced, the grandma character. She was pretty funny, she had some funny lines. But here, she gets replaced with a sister who I forgot her name because she has the personality of a wet toilet paper. And the only thing she contributes to the movie is the matchmaker scene, where Mulan only fails because there's a spider, and Mulan's sister is afraid of spiders. And even though Mulan and her sister can see the spider, the matchmaker and her mom can't. How does that work? Like, it's right in front of you. Can you guys not see the spider? And even though Mulan does this whole, balancing ninja thing to, grab all the cups and stuff, she only fails because her hair falls down and she drops it, which makes sense. But no, Mulan's to blame for it. So yeah, you could have just replaced the sister character with any random character, and it would make add as much impact to the story. And now, let's talk about the big one. Oh yeah, I forgot to talk about this moment real quick. There's a moment where they even try to recreate the scene where they almost kill Mulan. The army almost kills her. The big reason why this scene does not work at all is that since Shang is in this in the movie, there's no point. Because in the original, it made sense why Shang spared her, because Mulan rescued Shang, and Shang owed her a debt. So as a way of repaying her, he spared her. Here, even though they state right off the bat, if you are a woman in this army, you will die. But here, they spare her because she's the main character, and they still have about 30 minutes left in the movie. So, yeah. And you want to know how that scene comes into play? Because Mulan tricks the bad guys into firing at the avalanche. I swear, General Hux is more intimidating than Boricon's men. That is not a good sign. But yeah, let's talk about the big elephant in the room. how they ruined Mulan as a character. I know people have brought this up before, but I'm going to bring it up too because Mulan was one of my favorite Disney characters growing up. I really liked her struggle. I really liked her growth throughout the movie and in the other characters' growth. And here, they made Mulan the most boring protagonist ever. In fact, there's a scene in the movie which I don't even think was originally going to be a scene, but it was just like a behind the scenes blooper where Mulan says in the movie, "Oh, I can only have one expression on my face because that's what they're telling me to do." I don't think that was intended to be in the movie. I think that was the actress of Mulan saying that, but they decided to keep it in the movie. So, yeah. And here's one of the big problems with Mulan's character in this movie. They gave her superpowers, or chi, right out the gate. No, seriously, one of the first moments in the movie is that we see Mulan as a little girl running on these walls like he's Spider-Man, and being able to do this ninja flip where she's like, I'd say 5 to 8 years old at most. So yeah, that's really stupid. And also, Mulan doesn't really grow as a character. She stays the same the entire movie, and throughout the movie, the actress only has one expression on her face, one type of voice, and it's just nothing. I felt nothing for this version of Mulan whatsoever. And you know, there is a way of writing a strong female character. Let me give you some examples real quick. Ahsoka Tano from Star Wars The Clone Wars, Aqua from Kingdom Hearts, Urza Scarlet from Fairy Tail, Team Ruby from Ruby, and of course, Katara and Toph from Avatar The Last Airbender, and of course, Mulan from the original Mulan. The reason why those characters work, because those characters have struggles. They have personalities. And when they go through their struggles and ultimately overcome their obstacles, it feels like an earned victory. And not only do they grow more strong in ability-wise, but they become better as characters. Here in this movie, Mulan is just a blank slate, and it's really insulting to Mulan as a character. I know I've gone on a lot about this movie, but I genuinely hate it. I believe this is probably the worst live-action remake alongside Lion King, though I think this might be worse than Lion King, since at the very least, Jon Favreau is a good director. He made, he made Iron Man, the Jungle Book remake, and he's doing pretty good with The Mandalorian, but with Lion King, yeah, he was just given a bad film, a bad remake to work with. And also, I can give Lion King a pass because while I hate that remake with my guts, 95% of the movie is just, copied and paste from the original, so I can at least give it some credit. But this movie, yeah, I hate this movie, and it's one of the top 3 worst movies I've seen this year. I would give it a 2 out of 10. It's that bad. So now I'm finally back with my reviews, and next time we meet, I'll be taking a look at a certain holiday special that came out last month. See you all then, and have a good day. Bye, and I need to get some water. My voice has been drained from recording. Bye.